So before I became a Christian, I was raised as a Mormon. I was pretty confident in my early teens or so that wasn't true, that was a nice story that I had been told, and that was nice, but it was a story that was best left to my childhood. So I officially and openly left the Mormon Church when I was about 20, and then adopted agnostic atheistic worldview, and just lived my life in that pretty comfortably. I was not afraid of death. I didn't think there was a heaven or a hell. I figured once everything was done, I would go to sleep for the last time, and it would be a dreamless dark. And I was fine with that. That didn't bother me at all. I did try to live by moral code, I would have seen it as my own making, something that I thought everyone should do, this. Everyone should try to be a good husband. Everyone should try to be a good father and a good employee, and, just do right things. But I thought that was a social construct, something that we all kind of put together. And everything was very easy, very comfortable. I had a friend come into my life a long time ago, about 10 years ago, so probably when I was 26 or so. And he was a Christian and open, and he's also very direct, so he would just tell me what he thought about things. He had a Bible in his truck, and it was always on the dash, and I think he kept it there and keeps it there still as a conversation starter, so people know, hey, so you're a Christian, and then he can go from there. And he would bring, he wanted to find out what I thought and where I was and all of that. And he would just disagree with me. He would just be open. But he was always, well, the Bible says. He would never say, well, I think, or don't you believe, or I believe. It was always, well, the Bible says. And then he would tell me what the Bible said. And that didn't do anything to persuade me in any way for a very long time. We would listen to debates between theists and atheists. He approached me from a lot of different angles, talking about my family and what they deserve from me and what the Bible said about that. And then get into the apologetic side with me a little bit. And I always listened. I was always appreciative. I always felt like he was trying to give me something that mattered to him. And I was always grateful and no thank you. But we lived life alongside each other for a long time, became actual friends, where he cared about me, I cared about him, and he was invested in me as a person, not as a project. And that was obvious. So we worked together pretty consistently through all that time. After about 7 years, our conversations were much deeper, and I was much more open. And our conversations were more particular to me. So he would talk about always what the Bible says. The Bible says that we are sinners, and the Bible says that without an intercession, we will be damned. And the Bible says that the only way to salvation is through Christ. And even at that point, everything was kind of, well, that's nice. I mean, I get it. I understand. But that's not real to me. I remember one time asking him, we were talking about the flood, and I asked, do you ever doubt any of this? And his response was, no. Which I don't think he can, I still question whether that's true. But he's firm in his convictions, because the Bible says that these things are true. And, anyway, the next kind of event was kind of a non-event. You would think that part of my life would suddenly, some great struggle, some great trial. It really wasn't that. I had a customer of mine that was fighting cancer. I barely knew the guy. Didn't really have any interaction with him outside of just regular, here's your thing you ordered, and thanks so much. But he asked me to come see him on what turned out to be his deathbed. I did that. I went and saw him. He was barely able to talk to me, but was glad I was there. And I left that meeting with the full realization that I had offered him nothing. That I came in, basically said, "How are you?" which was an obvious answer, "Not well," and offered him nothing. I shared that with Tazo, and he sent me a quote of I don't remember who it is at this point, but it basically said, the only thing that you can share the dying is the saving message of Christ. And that hit me hard in a weird way, because I had felt so useless, and then he just confirmed, well, yeah, you didn't do the one thing that you could do. And all of a sudden, it started to matter to me. It started to be, well, what is the truth? So if there's something that I can bring to this guy, there's going to be some other guy who's dying that I'm going to be able to speak to. And next time it could be somebody who's really important to me. So what do I say to that guy, or that woman? So I felt like I had to figure out what it is I should say. And I think, there was another moment. We worked out in a garage together, and we were talking about a lot of heavy stuff, and I kind of had all these feelings about what should I tell someone, and those became directly personified onto my son. What should I tell my son? Is this idea of everything's possible, but we don't know. Is that how I want to leave my son? If he passes before me, is that my last statement? Yeah, we'll see. Or we won't. I thought, if there's something to tell him, I need to tell him. And we were having that conversation in his garage. We closed up. I walked down to the driveway to my car, and I felt incredible physical weight on my shoulders. And it was dark, and the weight, it was so physical. And I know I'm saying that, but it felt as if I was still doing heavy squats times 1,000. So I was pushed to the ground, just sobbing, snot, tears, and a mess. And what I felt was this weight of my son. His everything is in my hands, and I've got nothing. So what do I do? And that was that weight. And without fanfare or explanation, the weight was just suddenly gone. And I think that was the moment that I was saved. And it was also a moment where God took the opportunity to explain to me that it's not up to me to save my son. And it's not because of me that he's going to find out the truth. That's up to the Lord. And I didn't understand all that at the time. I just had this weird experience. But as time has gone, I've been able to see that. So anyway, that was the beginning of a short but intense search. I went through a lot of philosophy and some apologetics, tried to look at every worldview I could kind of get my hands on and just see what their basic beliefs are, and then evaluate those basic beliefs. Does this make sense to me or not? And I was resisting Christianity. I really didn't want this to be, it's just the Bible. Because I wanted it to be more complicated and more interesting. But almost immediately, it became obvious that the Bible was true, that Jesus came, that he was God and came to save those that had rebelled against him in a way that only the Creator God could. That all got solidified for me when I read Mere Christianity. Everything that Lewis said in that book, I was like, oh man, that makes sense. That makes sense. And this cumulative case he puts together in that book. And by the time I finished reading that, which was not terribly long, I knew that I was done and that I had been done. This was just the explanation of what had happened in my heart. So I knelt down. I went face to the ground on the carpet. I just said, Lord, this is real. You're real, and I can't do anything but be yours if those two things are true. If this is real and you are real, then I have to be yours from this day forward. I didn't know what all that meant. I knew it was significant and serious. And at that point, I didn't understand the gospel. But having experienced so much of kind of the joy that God put into me, now I can go and say, well, here I was a sinner. I didn't know that. But I still sin, and so many of those sins are sins of my heart, or just because I don't put my eyes on a woman that doesn't belong to me, doesn't mean that my sin isn't all these other things, all this pride, all this self-grandization, and just constantly forgetting God. And to have all of that so present to me, especially right in the beginning, where God was just like, look at this mess. And I thought I had it together, but the mess was there and obvious. And then just as I tried to understand God's character, and a lot of that C.S. Lewis explains really well, but I tried to dig deeper and still am. And I can see how perfect and holy and just He is, and compare myself to that. I'm nowhere near. I can't come. I can't. I do not belong in that presence. But Christ came. And He didn't come to see how we were doing. He came for a purpose. And when He came, the people that He was focused on were the sinners. And they were lost. And they were in need of a shepherd. And when you have that God just coming here, just to be there to shepherd us, let alone coming to be a sacrifice that will enable me to be in God's presence. What can that be called but good?